So you can see here, we got Intel site down at the front, and we got a very, very simple vision setup next to it here. So this is about as simple as you can get. It's just connected straight to a camera. There's no lighting, no cover, anything like that. And it's just looking down at a background. And we've got here examples of PCBs. So if I turn on the screen here, this screen is basically showing what's going on inside Intel site, what it's actually processing from the visual image. So you can see here, this is the image it's captured, and it's drawing on an overlay basically to say, based on color, these are the types of materials that I see on this board. So in green, it's saying this is PCB. The red, I see this as plastic. The blue, I see this as chips. I don't think we have any gold on this one, but if it saw gold on this one, it would make that yellow. And it's basically taking that visual information, processing it, and then it may be hard to see, but I'll pull it up in a second. We're taking that combined information about what Intel site sees on this board and coming up with a chart of the composition. So saying that, let's say 80% of the board is PCB material, 20% of the board is plastic, 10% of it is metal. So if I were to take another board, throw it underneath Intel site, we can see it process in real time. We've actually got a touch screen on the front of Intel. Intel site's basically got built-in PLC functionality, right? So we actually have a little HMI interface on the front like you would have on a PLC system. For the purposes of this demo, I've just got a little button on the front of it to trigger the camera. You don't have to use a button on the front of the system, though. You could connect it to sensors. You could connect it to some other kind of trigger to trigger the system. But you can see here, it's processed this board now. So on the display here, you can see it's got the outline of where it sees PCB. It's highlighted all of the chips it sees in blue there. It's got that big plastic connector there in red. And if I pull up the visualization, share my screen again. Just a sec. This is the actual output that is generated based on this board. So you can see we've got a pie chart there that represents the material composition, all the different kinds of materials it's looking for listed there with their the actual percentages and a breakdown. So you can see on this board, large amount of it is PCB, just pure substrate, not a whole lot on it. That plastic though, that big connector is taking up a fair amount of the total area, and there's a fair amount of metal and IC chips on it as well. Could swap that board out though for, let's go with something from I think this one's from a laptop. This one's actually got a fair amount of gold on it. I'm actually just going to trigger this one in here. Run it. And you'll see on this board, so you can actually see, if I hold it up to the camera here, a whole lot of gold on. And you can see in the visualization, yeah, it sees all that gold on it, right? But yeah, so this kind of gives you, I guess, a good understanding of some of the possible ways that Intel site could be used. Tell you information about these PCBs, the material composition, potentially more nuanced information too. We've talked with some processors, for example, that are looking for certain kinds of chips or newer generation chips. There's potential to find that kind of information as well. For the purposes of this demo, we just wanted to do something pretty simple and straightforward with it. But there's far more potential with the system too if you use the technology.